Hey there everyone, and good Monday evening. It's Eric here with weather for Weather Geeks. It's the Valley's most thorough, in-depth weather forecast. And boy, do we have a lot to talk about this week. A potpourri of weather coming our way over the next few days. First of all, quick review of our clipper system from last evening that caused the slick roads last night and a lot of school adjustments this morning. We officially picked up 1.5 inches at the Youngstown Warren Airport before midnight and just a trace after that. Actually, the problem after midnight last night was more freezing drizzle than it was snow. Most of the snow occurred before midnight last night. Our monthly total up to 2.6 inches, 2.3 below the average through the first 11 days of February. Typically, we're right around 5 inches worth of snow through the first 11 days of February. All right, so we are behind that, and boy, just a reminder that it can be pretty nice at this time of the year. We've had some warm February days over the last couple of years, and 20 years ago, on February 11th, we had a high of 70 degrees. That actually is not a record. I think the record today is 72. So nonetheless, one of the warmest February 11ths on record here in Youngstown. All right, let's skip ahead to where we are now. We're not going to see 70 anytime soon around here. We've got a lot of watches, warnings, and advisories out there, even a somewhat rare ice storm warning for far northwest Ohio and into far southeastern Michigan. Winter storm warnings for central Pennsylvania up through parts of upstate New York. And in our local area, it's just one county in our local television viewing area that has an advisory out. That's Mercer County, and I'll talk a little bit more about the threats up there in just a second. Everyone is under a flood watch, though. And that is in effect through tonight and tomorrow. Rivers and creeks are running high. We've got a fair amount of rain heading our way, and the ground is still pretty frozen, so a lot of this can run off, and we can have some issues, I think, over the next 24 to 36 hours, kind of in the usual places. If you live in a neighborhood that typically floods kind of easily, if you live near Mahoning River in Trumbull County especially, Eagle Creek, some parts of Poland typically see some problems when we have some rain and some snow melt. You know, the usual suspects. The flood-prone areas may have some issues over the next 24 to 36 hours. Not expecting a lot of flash flooding or sudden flooding. This will be more of a gradual rain coming our way tonight and tomorrow. Everything is slowly pushing off to the north this evening. Now, as we go through the evening, this misty rain will be with us. You might encounter some wet snowflakes. Really no impacts from snow in most of our area this evening and overnight. It's just a cold, kind of miserable rain for most of us. Now, there are exceptions to that. The farther north you are, and especially northeast, up into Mercer County, temperatures will be a little bit tricky over there. Instead of around 32, 33, some places could be as cold as 30, 31. The air aloft a little bit colder as well. And so perhaps a small accumulation of snow, but perhaps more importantly, some freezing rain concerns in Mercer County tonight. Everyone changes over to just plain old rain tomorrow as we warm up. I'm concerned in Mercer County about bridges and overpasses. As the colder air wraps around those exposed surfaces. Also, the lower sheltered valleys, typically where the cold air kind of wants to drain, those places could be a little more susceptible to some frozen precipitation tonight, with rain falling into air that's 30 or 31 degrees. Now, when we talk about the chances of a certain amount of ice, this is 1/10 of an inch. Typically, 1/10 of an inch of ice doesn't cause a lot of problems. Isolated issues. Your highest chances, certainly, of seeing that north and east of Youngstown up into Mercer County, but even in our Ohio counties, I can't rule out a 1/5 or 5/100ths of an inch or 1/10 of an inch worth of freezing rain in some spots tonight. But I think there's going to be a lot of rain falling into 32, 33 degree air tonight in the Youngstown area, a lot of Trumbull County, and certainly down into Columbiana County. And when you get rain falling at 32 degrees, technically, yeah, it's freezing rain, but it's usually not very impactful when it's right at 32. Now, when we talk about 1/4 of an inch of ice accretion, that's when you start typically running into more problems. The odds definitely lower once we're up into this threshold, but still up to maybe 40% chance in extreme eastern Mercer County of seeing 1/4 of an inch worth of ice accretion. And that would be bad news. This is one model I'm going to show you here. I believe this is the NAM I have plotted up. It shows perhaps up to 1/4 to 1/3 of an inch of ice accretion near Sandy Lake, kind of around and east of the I-79 corridor. So as you can see, that's the area that definitely has the best chance of seeing impactful ice overnight tonight. This is kind of another way of visualizing it. Ice accretion is most problematic when the wind is calm. When the wind is blowing and you get freezing rain, a lot of times the ice has a hard time sticking and accumulating or causing accretion on surfaces. I think we're in this kind of boat tonight, 1/10 to 1/4 of an inch with winds less than 15 again, this is not a big ice storm, but I can't rule out, we getting into kind of the number one here. What does that mean? Well, when we look at our scale here, when we talk about some isolated localized utility interruptions possible, typically lasting a few hours, roads and bridges especially can become slick and hazardous. I think a lot of northern and eastern Mercer counties kind of in this zone tonight. It's not a big ice storm per se, but it is potentially problematic for the overnight hours. All right. Whatever we see tonight, everyone's just going to see plain old rain tomorrow as we get into the 40s. It's going to be a relatively balmy day, even though it's fairly wet. Our cold front timing tomorrow night, right around 11 p.m. midnight in most spots. That's going to change our rain showers over to snow showers and changeable conditions in the forecast for Wednesday. This could be a pretty tough day on the roads in spots. It'll be one of those days where everything's very changeable. Everything's fine, and then all of a sudden you hit a pretty decent snow shower, visibility is reduced, you get a quick coating of snow, and sometimes that can cause some problems. So it's going to be one of those kind of days on Wednesday. Also a very windy day Wednesday. Could see some gusts to 45. Now for Valentine's Day, we're back into a southerly flow. A lot of back and forth this week. I think the best day of the week is in fact going to be on Thursday. All right, so I mentioned that flood watch is out. Our model's in pretty decent agreement here. The Euro is kind of the low man on this one. For tonight and for tomorrow, our rain total should average an inch to maybe an inch and a quarter when all is said and done. As far as the impacts go, taking a look at Tuesday and Wednesday, again, there's our rain, but then the rain changes to snow midnight-ish tomorrow night. Snowfall totals on Wednesday, don't focus on the amounts. You can't measure it. It's going to be very changeable. Maybe an inch in some spots, but more importantly, no matter if you see a dusting a quarter of an inch, 3/4 of an inch, or an inch, it can still be impactful on the roads. Winds gusting to 45 during the day on Wednesday. Wednesday, definitely a reminder that we are into mid-February. All right, Valentine's Day coming up on Thursday, and I think this is the best day of the week. A chilly start, nothing unusual for mid-February, but hey, 46 in the afternoon with filtered or dim sunshine. I think there'll be some high clouds filtering in out of our next system, which comes our way at the end of the week on Friday. Longer range sneak peek here. Overall, the pattern is not going to do much in the way of, we're not going to see large-scale changes in the 8 to 14-day period. It's still remarkably cold and stormy in the west. You've seen, no doubt at this point, the video and the pictures of them getting hammered with snow in places such as Seattle and Portland. Snow coming down into parts of California, Nevada, the Intermountain West. The pattern looks the same in the 8 to 14-day period. Cold and stormy out there. Great time to be vacationing in Florida. It remains warm and more like March or April down there. And then we're kind of in between, where we're not going to get into the abnormal warmth very often, but we're certainly not going to be in the heart of the cold that will be focused out west. So, I'm starting to really think that February, when all is said and done, will not go in the record books as a very cold month here. It may end up pretty close to average, actually, but not as cold as we originally thought February would be back when we did our winter forecast. All right, that's it for tonight's weather for Weather Geeks. I'll have more updates on social media tonight with the threat for some icy spots, again, especially in Mercer County. And I'll have a full update tonight on the TV side, 21 News at 11. I'll see you then.